After Dr. Noakes, we'll hear from Glori Smith and Erika Munson. Their topic is building students' skills for communicating across the political divide, the Braver Angels philosophy. Glori H. Smith holds a PhD in curriculum and instruction from Utah State University, an MA in media literacy education, and a VA in history teaching, both from Brigham Young University. Glori has taught high school history, which she did for 30 years, and English language development, and has also taught secondary teacher education courses at the university level for several years. Glori enjoys working with university students and teachers to improve civic education, allowing her to keep her fingers in the education pie for a few more years. We're so excited that she's here with us in the Civic Thought and Leadership Initiative. Glori grew up in Anchorage, Alaska, but has now happily lived in Provo, Utah, with her husband and family for many years. Erika Munson is a graduate of Harvard University, where she received a BA in Fine Arts. Her professional and volunteer life is focused on bringing diverse communities together for conversations about faith, values, and identity. She has taught English at Waterford School for the last 12 years, also serving as middle and upper school librarian and class dean. In 2017, she joined Braver Angels and brought the first Red-Blue workshop to Utah. Since then, she continues to serve as the organization's Utah State Coordinator. Erika was co-founder of Mormons Building Bridges and currently serves on the board of Emmaus LGBTQ Ministry. A mother of 5 and a grandmother of 3, Erika lives in Sandy with her husband Shipley, where she loves to read, write, garden, and walk her rescued greyhound.
Okay, if you're still out in the hall, time to come in. And we'll get started. So good to be here. It's so good to see all of you. And I'm feeling, I have learned so much, and I really enjoyed all the other speakers in the conference, but this is already becoming a kind of long day, isn't it? I'm kind of sorry. and we've got more. Of course, we have, Arthur Brooks at the end of today to make it worth the wait. But I hope, and I think, Erika and I have a couple things that will help you today. I mean, that will also be interesting and interactive, and we'll have you talking, so you don't get to fall asleep just because it's late afternoon. School's over and it's time to go to sleep, right? Take your nap. Sorry. Okay. So my name is Glori Smith, and I work here at UVU in the civics education, trying to improve civics education throughout the state of Utah. And this is my friend Erika, and she is the Braver Angels co-coordinator for Utah and also a fellow teacher.
Yes, and so today we're going to share with you our experience helping students cultivate the skills they need to be engaged citizens, to be the things that we've been talking about all day, basically, who can work productively across political differences.
It was kind of amazing to me how many things have already been said today. A couple times Erika and I texted each other like, oh my gosh, they're talking about the same thing we're talking about in a different way, which is great. Really, really exciting. Okay, let's see. Say everything we need to say again. Okay, so this is the agenda for today, and as you'll see, you may have noticed the table out there with the Braver Angels information, and you see the Braver Angels sign on our screen, and Braver Angels later in the on the agenda. So it's going to take a minute before we get fully to that, but if you don't know too much about Braver Angels, don't worry about it. We'll be giving you that full introduction. But we're going to start with a couple other things that I believe they're infused with the ideas and the philosophies of Braver Angels, but they didn't always start in that direction. I mean, they didn't necessarily come that way. So we're going to jump in to, I'm not going to read the whole agenda to you, but just get ready to participate and hear about some tried and true classroom practices. Okay. So I've had great classroom experiences using debates as a way to engage students, as a way to help them learn content, explore another perspective, and learn how to respectfully disagree, kind of what we've been talking about for a while, and share their own opinion without being disagreeable, which is a really important skill, and we all They're all on that page. Let's see, I'm trying to remember what else I was going to say. So some debates, we're going to start with some lighthearted debates. You can see the topics up there. You can be looking at those and think about which one you might want to jump into, because some of you will be asked to. Starting with some lighthearted debates is a great way to help your students see that they're unthreatening, non-threatening, and to just get used to the idea. It's really fun to start at the beginning of maybe a semester with some non-threatening topics. The procedure today is what I'm calling for today only, a modified Oxford debate style. Modified Oxford debate, I don't even know where that phrase comes from or why these are Oxford debates, but I found it online a number of years ago. I always thought doing debates in school would be fun. By the way, I taught high school history in government for 30 years. Robert said that earlier, but you may have forgotten. And I always thought debates would be fun. I remember the first couple of years I was teaching, students would come into history class and say, can we debate? Are we debating in this class? You know, at the beginning of the semester. And I tried it a few times and it failed miserably. I knew that the people up there debating had learned something and they were having a good time. Everyone else was bored to tears and nobody was learning anything. And I thought, okay, you know, that sounds nice, but I don't think we're doing it. And at some point, somebody introduced me, or maybe I saw an example of another class, I really don't remember, it's been a lot of years, how I found this modified Oxford debate. But they told me that that was the format, and I went online and found it, and I developed a debate program, or a debate protocol for my classroom. And we had a lot of fun with it, and we learned a lot. Like I said, content, we learned real content, particularly when I taught US government. But not only there, I actually taught ESL classes, just English language development for just English learners, and we did debates there with the same process, the same format as I used in my government classes, and then we did some in history also. So they really work well, and I really wanted to introduce that to you. So with an Oxford debate style, or the modified Oxford debate style, you don't know when you come to do your debate if you're on the affirmative or the negative, the pro or the con. And that, I think, is one of the reasons it was most successful for learning a lot and helping students see the other perspective in a respectful way. So they come to class and they have to be prepared for both sides, and I make them turn in notes for both sides. And when the debaters are there, we flip a coin and somebody gets heads or tails, and they get to choose if they're pro or con, and affirmative or negative, and then we proceed on. And I can remember one experience I had that just like, a lot of the students told me they didn't like that. They wanted to know at the beginning. You know, I let them choose their topic. I do let them do that. And I usually chose to save time in a big class. Sometimes my classes of government were 35 and 40. I think one horrible year was 42 students in a US government class. Usually they have partners. So it's two people debating, so they've got some support, and two people are debating two other people, and they take turns with the opening statement or the rebuttal and the closing statement, or they stand up together and tag team each other, kind of help each other looking at the notes. So I'm pretty gentle on all of those things, but I'm really firm on the not knowing which side you're on. And after a few debates, or after any individual student's debate, they would come and tell me that was really helpful, that they really learned a lot. And that they understood that they were sharpening the arguments for the side that they really believed in. If they had a really strong opinion, it really sharpened their arguments to know what the other position was. And so, yeah, and I told them all that in the beginning, but they had to learn it themselves before they were happy with me. And then the other experience that I really remember, I remember one girl, and she came from a very conservative family. In fact, her mother was a legislative leader here in Utah, and she chose a healthcare debate, whether or not the United States should have single-payer or universal health care. And she really wanted to be against it, but she had to prepare for both sides. And one time we were taking some time in class to prepare for their debates, and she called me over and she said, "Oh, Mrs. Smith," she said, "this is so hard. I really thought I was against it, and I really am, but these stories, this healthcare is really basic. There's so many sad stories of people that don't get the care that they need." And she, it was just so amazing. I said, yeah, that's how it is. But, there's reasons for both sides, and keep on preparing. And I do not remember which side she got when it came to debate. but those were really important to me. Let's see, what else did I not say to you yet? We do it, okay, so I told you that we flip a coin, and so Erika and I are going to demonstrate debating today for you, and we're going to start with that first topic, oranges are the best fruit, and we're going to flip a coin to see if I can make the mouse hit the right place. No, I have to do it on this screen. We're kind of being tricky here. We're going to flip a coin to see who's going to go first. So Erika, since I'm doing all the talking, you tell me, heads or tails?
Tails.
Okay. Okay, come on. Tails, you got it, Erika. So what side do you want? Oranges or some other fruit?
I want negative on oranges are the best fruit.
Okay, so I'm affirmative, so I'm going to go first. So I have to get back now to the other screen. Sorry, this is really interesting today. Everyone else had an easier situation than us. Just so you know, it's our fault. Okay, so I'm affirmative, and you notice the rules say affirmative goes first. So oranges are the best fruit, and Erika, you're wrong. Oranges are definitely the best fruit. Like most fruits, and I don't need to all stand on top of each other here, oranges, like most fruits, are delicious. They're thirst quenching, and they're also really nutritious. But you can also say that about other fruits, like strawberries are another one of my very favorite fruits. But oranges have a hidden talent. They travel well. If I put an orange in my briefcase this morning, I could go get it out of my briefcase right now and peel it, and it would still be delicious. It will not have made a mess all over my briefcase. It wouldn't have taken a plastic container or a plastic bag or any other kind of silicone bag, if you will, to transport it, and it would still be great and delicious. And so therefore, oranges are the very best fruit.
Well, I do agree with you, Glori, that oranges are delicious and nutritious, but exactly, I think they're the worst fruit exactly for the opposite reason, which is, okay, you put your orange in your backpack, but then you're away from home and you want to eat the orange, so you have to peel it, and your fingers get sticky, and where do you put the peels? I don't want to put the peels back in my backpack, and I can't always find the garbage can. So I think for that reason, oranges are not the best fruit.
Okay. Well, I still disagree with you, but we can agree to disagree, and I still will be your friend. Okay. All right. Do we have anyone else who's looking over these topics and would just love to debate a topic that they want to stand for? Remember, though, we are going to flip a coin. So is anybody willing to be a debater today?
Yeah, the person most like Adams take on the person most like Jefferson.
Oh, okay, we can do that. Thank you, Dr. Notes. Okay, with the Adams person, stand up, please. And did they leave? Did they bail on us?
They don't want to stand up.
Okay, well, they like to stand up when they wave. There it is. Okay. So you are most like Adams. And where's our Jefferson lady?
Amanda.
Amanda.
I do not want to do this.
You know, Amanda, would you like to voluntold someone else? Or voluntel someone else?
Rock, paper, scissors.
You win.
Nicole, would you please debate a topic for us? Please?
Oh, sure.
Okay. All right. Nicole, since you were voluntold, I will, could I have you come up? You don't know, if you do want to volunteer someone else, you can name them. It's really not hard. We've got some easy topics here. It's only a couple sentences. You can do it, Adams. I'm sure you can.
Like I'm not threatening.
Thank you. Okay, so I guess we have to go back to our flipping a coin. I have done this the old-fashioned way, by the way. Have a coin in my pocket and do it.
Okay, do we know what topic? We need the
Oh,
topic.
no, yeah, which topic are you guys?
Which topic do you want to do?
Adams, Mr. Adams, you may choose the topic. Mr. Jeffrey Bruhl, you can choose the topic and I'll let Nicole flip the coins. What? Oh, here, come look at our screen.
A book tells a story better than a movie. Basketball is better than football. Dark chocolate is better than milk chocolate. iPhone versus Android.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the book tells a story better than a movie. And Nicole, you get to flip the coin. So heads or tails?
Heads.
You won. So which side do you want? Are you affirmative, a book tells a story better than a movie, or are you negative on that? You're negative on that.
I mean, maybe not really, but I'll.
Oh, okay, you'll go with the negative. Okay, thank you. All right. So affirmative gets to start. Tell us why a book tells a story better than a movie.
A book is able to go into so much more detail than a movie can. Also, you can put a book down and come back to it later and enjoy it. You can also, like a movie, you can see it again, but it's a little bit more costly to keep going back and seeing a movie. But with a book, you can just keep rereading it, and it's lower cost. If you dozed off during your book, you can always go back and reread the paragraph.
Okay, that's great. That's fine. Very good.
Well, I'm gonna have to disagree, because I think that in as much as movies leave out a lot of details, they also add things like ambiance. So you get things like background music that can create feelings just as well, I would say, as any great author's description. I think movies also make stories more accessible to people who may not have time to read books. And I guess I don't know exactly how you watch movies, but boy, I pause and come back to them all the time, or fall asleep and rewind and come back to it. Especially with the advent of streaming services, I think that it's just a lot easier for mass people to consume some of these great stories in a digital format, more than it is for them to take the time to read a book.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, that was so much fun, finding people to debate, that we will not do anymore. Unless there's anybody who, okay, while I try to get back there, if there's anyone who just saw a topic and now that they saw how simple it is, they're really brave and really want to. Does anyone else want to do another debate? All right, we will stop there and move along. Did you notice that the way I wrote the debate resolutions? So I'm leaving them up there for a minute while you see that. They were written with a difference. The first four were different than the fifth one, the Android versus or iPhone versus Android. That was on purpose, because I wanted to make a point with writing good debate resolutions. It really, and this again was like learning about how to do a debate in class in the first place. I had to do some research, some informal research, some Google, some talking to people who did debates in their class and how do you get a good one. Because I would have things like, I don't want to think about that right now, what I might have had, but it's really helpful if the resolution is said in a really positive way that this thing is the best, or this thing is preferable, or we should continue this, whatever this is. Because then the affirmative or pro position is for the thing the debate is about. So it's just kind of confusing to do it the other way, and I'll give you an example in just a second. But the iPhone versus Android one, I was thinking about a Braver Angels style debate. So I'm just jumping into Braver Angels a little bit here, ahead of Erika in just a minute. In a Braver Angels debate, so in the modified Oxford debate, and by the way, you have all these instructions for debates, and including some sample topics that I've used in high school classes. In the packet that says Braver Angels on the front, my section on debates are the last 2 pages. So the Braver Angels debate is a little gentler, kinder debate. It's really more a series of speeches with nice questions of curiosity following the speech. Instead of an opening statement and then a rebuttal and then another opening statement and a closing thing and no crossfire in the middle, which I never did anyway, and it's not on the instructions, but I've had students ask for it and say, oh, it's really fun. Some people like arguing. And anyhow, so I wrote that one to be that way, because that's how I would do most, not all, but most of the Braver Angels debates, like this or this, and you're going to speak for this, and you're going to speak for that. Okay, so let me give you an example of a problem. So in a government class or a U.S. history class, it's very common to have lots of questions about the Electoral College and to debate that. Like, we should abolish the Electoral College, we should get rid of it or whatever. The problem with the debates resolution worded that way, the Electoral College should be abolished. And if you're on the affirmative side, you're against the Electoral College. And it's just really hard to, maybe it's just me, or maybe it's just high school students, but to wrap your head around, I'm debating Electoral College, I'm affirmative, I'm against it. And it's just so much easier to keep it as straight in everybody's minds, including all the kids that are watching the debate. And sometimes you have assignments for them to do, to take notes, or to, sometimes I have students vote before and after and see if anyone changed their minds. It's best if you can get an electronic version or something like that that's anonymous. And I would say if you just changed one person's mind, you won the debate. So we're not really looking for winners, at least in my class, I'm not looking to name a winner of the debate. Anyhow, so instead of saying the Electoral College, or we should abolish the Electoral College, I would word it as the Electoral College should be retained as the way the US chooses the president. Then the person that's in the affirmative or the pro side is for the Electoral College, and the negative is against it. It just makes it easier to wrap our heads around it. So you can try it the other way. If you do try debates in your class and you haven't done them before, you'll probably see after a while that there's just some resolutions that make it a lot easier for everybody. So the iPhone versus Android one, they would just come up and give a speech. They would not flip a coin. They would know. That's the one exception when I do Braver Angels debates in class. The students know what they're going to debate, because a Braver Angels debate is supposed to be a sincerely held position on a topic that's important. And so they get to choose. So I have some other things that make it a little more stringent for them, but they give a speech in favor of it. And then it's followed by questions from the audience that are supposed to be, and my job as the moderator, to stop any that are not and make them reword them. No gotcha questions, no snarky questions. No like, how on earth could you believe this when you said this, or when I know this? And none of that. Just, okay, so I'd like to know more about how you came to that position, or can you tell me when you first started thinking about that? Just questions of curiosity because you honestly want to know. And then the other side gives their debate, or their speech, and then more questions. Sometimes there's a second speech, and sometimes there's even a third, although I have them go, and I believe the Braver Angel style, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is to go smaller and smaller. So in my class, it was like 3 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute. I think an official online Braver Angels debate, I've seen a little more than. Erika did a fabulous Braver Angels debate online once. Yes, you did. I don't know. Thank you. Okay, so anyway, let's see if I drew all my notes here. So some debate topics I've done in the past were something like that I've done with Braver Angels. I usually save the more emotional topics to be Braver Angels because they're a little softer and gentler. They don't encourage the confrontation, and they're just, that's it, mostly gentler, nicer to learn different sides. So abortion should be legal. We've done that. I've done that in high school. I've done that in college. This was a few years ago now, but President Trump has done more good than harm. And that was a Braver Angels debate in my high school class, probably 2018. Just this week, Mike Lee versus Evan McMullen. And I was just thinking, looking out at you, I said, if I was in a high school class right now, I might want to try, I might not want to try pro or con Proposition 2. Is that what it's called, Proposition 2? Yeah. The Orem thing. So maybe not. That you do have to think about if emotions are going to be too high in your classroom, if it cuts too close to home. But I've done all those other ones that I said, and they're pretty emotional. Okay, does anyone have any questions about debates? Like you're thinking you might like to try this, but you have a question or any ideas? Yes?
So when you said you go smaller and smaller, can you elaborate on that?
Oh, that was sort of the Braver Angels debates. And I'd say the first speaker can go 3 minutes, and then the person on the other side can go 3 minutes. And after each speaker, there's questions. And then the next, if there's a second speaker, they've only got 2 minutes, and then 2 minutes. And then if there is a third speaker, I've only had that one time in my classes where there was a third speaker for one side, it was only 1 minute.
Oh, that's.
So that's what it's smaller time frame. Yeah. Did you have a question?
Oh, I was just gonna say, generally when you go smaller, the the idea is to crystallize your argument to the most important
Ah,
argument.
okay, so that would be helpful, yeah. I can say that with remembering that debate, I don't know that it did happen that way with the students, but I can see that that would be helpful. And so you could do that, I guess you could do that with the same speaker, but then there would kind of start to be like a rebuttal, but you could do it with different speakers too, like the broad, and then get the more important things on the second speech, and maybe the third. Okay, any other ideas or questions, or anybody else do debates in a wonderful way? Yes?
What did you do when your students could fill up 2 minutes?
Oh, very good. It's always 2 minutes max, or 3 minutes max. And yeah, they do not have to fill it up. I told them it's much better to have a really interesting 30 seconds or 1 minute than, yeah, they do not have to fill the time. Thank you. That's a really good question. Yeah.
If part of the goal of Braver Angels is to get sort of different sides to engage thoughtfully together, can you guys, either one of you, describe a time when that seemed to happen? And a related question is, what if you have students who just aren't even sure where they stand on a given issue? They're still sorting that out. So how do you connect to that process?
Okay, so for your first question, just hang on. It's coming really soon.
Right, yeah.
We're getting there. And the second question, that is really true. And so I'm teaching a government class here at UVU this year. But you know what, it's freshmen, mostly it's freshmen, and they're not very much different than the high school seniors I taught. And I mean, really, they're just a few months away from that, and they don't always know. 2 students are going to be debating next week on filibuster, and I know they didn't know what it was when they signed up for it. I think they thought it was a funny word. It is a funny word. And what was the other one? Oh, I had a debate resolution a few weeks ago on DACA or the DREAM Act, or the DREAM Act. And I know one of the students did not know what it was. But she did her research and she was ready and she took the side she got on the coin flip and she did a great job because she learned something. Hey, she learned about something going on in government and it's an important topic. So yeah, so that works. That happens all the time. Yeah, in fact, I think I had, for the Evan McMullen-Lee debate, I really was struggling to get someone to stand up in support of Lee. And I went to a student that I knew I thought probably was in support, but he said, I really haven't been paying attention, I really don't know. And he said, but I'll do it. He said, sure, I'll do it, I'll do the research. And I think he sincerely came to it, but I felt a little bad because Braver Angels are really supposed to be a sincerely held position. But he did the research and stood up in support of Lee. Okay, Erika,
Alright,
your turn.
awesome. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background on Braver Angels.
Oh,
And
sorry. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry, before you do that,
read that quote.
I forgot to point out this quote, and some of you I hopefully have been reading it, but this came to me from a student that graduated quite a few years ago now, and she sent it to me last year in the middle. She found me on social media and sent me a nice letter about how much she appreciated the debates in my class and how much they made a difference to her. So I love that middle line. For the first time for me, government wasn't just a bunch of random facts and statistics I had to remember and regurgitate later, but it was a real institution with real-world impacts and relevance. If my students remember nothing, they won't remember nothing if they understand that government is a real-world institution and has relevance and impacts in their life. That most of the students in high school and here at UVU, it's a GE class, it's required. So it's not their favorite topic. There's a few. I think in a class of 30 right now, I think I have 3 political science majors. One of them here was here listening to Dr. Noakes a little while ago. It's relevant to all of them. No matter what they become in life, it's relevant. And to help them learn that is the most important thing. So I was thrilled to death to get her letter, and I asked for her permission to use it in things like this. Okay, now it's your turn, Erika. It really is.
Awesome. So, Braver Angels is a bipartisan citizens organization. This is one of those citizens organizations, one of those societies, one of those things that people have gotten together to do for the good of the country by themselves, using all the social capital they have. Committed to political depolarization on the local, regional, and national level. And here are here's a little bit of data about it. We 52,000 subscribers, a presence in all 50 states. We've conducted over 2,000 workshops and forged 87 political alliances with other institutions. And the problem is affective polarization. And I'm going to tell you how we got to first let me talk about what affective polarization is. And this is the tendency for partisans to dislike and distrust those from the other party. It's one of the most striking developments of 21st century US politics. So how does this show up in our emotions and attitudes? So over the last few decades, our affect, our emotions and attitudes towards our own party has stayed relatively similar or even gotten better. So this is our perception of our own party. But our views on the other party have gotten much worse. And I'm gonna now pause for the story of the founding of Braver Angels. So it began in 2016, the day after the election, the presidential election, and two friends who had worked together in public policy for many years, David Blankenhorn and David Lapp. David Blankenhorn in New York, David Lapp in Ohio, David Blankenhorn liberal, David Lapp conservative. And they called each other up the day after the election and compared notes. And David B. said the island of Manhattan, the entire island of Manhattan is in mourning. And David Lapp said, I have never seen rural Ohio so energized and excited. And so they were experiencing this two Americas. And they felt terrible about it. And they said, we need to do something. And so they got together with their friend, who's a professor at the University of Minnesota, Bill Doherty, who is an expert on couples therapy. He's an expert on troubled relationships. And they said, could you devise some kind of experience for Clinton voters and Trump voters to listen to each other? And he did. And they got together they got 10 Trump voters and 10 Clinton voters. And this is also on YouTube, this story. Braver Angels has a channel, and you can see this story there, and interviews with the people who participated. And took them through some workshops and protocols, and were really encouraged by the end of it. Everyone involved was just totally surprised that they were not at each other's throats by the end of the weekend. And so they then went on a bus tour, taking this workshop everywhere they could in the Northeast and down a little bit in the Southeast. At that point, they started getting some press, and I contacted them and said, bring that bus to Utah, we need it. And they said, we'd love to, but we don't have enough money. So fundraising ensued, and then they also realized these workshops can't be limited by experts who run them. We need to be able to create workshops that citizens can be trained in, that citizens can run themselves. So this is all scalable, and that's what they did. And they created moderator training. I took the moderator training. I became a Braver Angels moderator and facilitator and did a workshop in Utah. And so that was the motivation for them to challenge this idea of affective polarization. So, back to this description. So, what are the reactions? What does affective polarization look like? And none of this will be a surprise to any of you. Animosity, distrust, contempt. And if you've read Arthur Brooks' book, he does a really good description of how toxic contempt is. It's anger plus disgust. And marriage counselors, when they see contempt in a relationship, they are very doubtful as to whether the relationship is going to continue. So it's not just about the issues, it's about how we regard our fellow Americans who differ from us politically. And here's an interesting statistic that captures the situation. Who are we willing to welcome into our family? In 1960, 4% of Republicans and 4% of Democrats thought they'd be pretty unhappy if their child married a member of the other political party. By 2018, 35% of Republicans and 45% of Democrats feel that way. And I bet if we did this now, it would be even higher on both sides. So we're treating people with whom we disagree as if they're worth less than us, and they're certainly not worthy of joining our family. So the goals of Braver Angels are to deepen our understanding of ourselves and the other, to conduct events like these workshops we're going to tell you about, that bring citizens together on both sides of the political aisle, and to empower participants to use depolarizing skills in their communities. Okay, and Glori will now talk to us about how we bring this into, why do our students need to worry about this stuff, which we all know they do.
But before I do that, I think you forgot to,
What did I forget?
you forgot to introduce some important.
Oh, I did. Thank you so much. Okay, so I'm going to go back here. A really important part of the structure of Braver Angels, so they have this great national team, but then on the state level, everybody's a volunteer, okay? And an important, on the national team, they have evenly divided reds and blues, evenly balanced. Let's not say divided, let's say balanced. People who identify as liberal and people who identify conservative. And the same goes for our organization here in Utah. So I am the Utah State Co-Coordinator. I identify as liberal, and my colleague, Casey Jorgensen, is right here. And classic blue, forgetting to introduce the red, wouldn't you say? Anyway, so and Casey also, she's going to be here and is up at the table after this if you want to talk and learn more about us. So thank you so much, Glori. Woo! Didn't want to forget that.
Okay, so, are we there? No, we're not. Okay, so when I learned about Braver Angels, and by the way, Erika held an early conference, but I believe or workshop, I believe she came to the very first workshop, Braver Angels workshop in Utah that I held, and that's when I met Erika. So I also am a volunteer. I'm not the state coordinator. I'm a barely volunteer. But anyway, using these Braver Angels ideas and practices and philosophy and teaching, in my teaching practice, seemed like a no-brainer for me. In fact, I first learned about Braver Angels, when I was at a conference with students. I had students on a Saturday up at Weber State doing Model United Nations competition, and they always had a little teacher room where you can sit there and twiddle your thumbs, play on social media, grade your papers, something like that. And I went on Facebook and I found a former colleague who I highly respected talking about this new organization called Braver Angels. And within 5 minutes of reading what she said, I joined. And I right away was thinking, looking on their website and thinking, this is something I want to do. I want to do it for my country, but I also want to bring it to my students. Really got something tickling my nose. Okay. So that was early 2017 when I joined. And when you think about it though, what's written there on the screen, why expand to secondary students? Because their political views are formed in adolescence. As Judy said a few minutes ago, they don't always know where they stand, but they're going to know probably by the time they graduate from high school or very shortly after where they think they fit into the perspectives. Civic education leads to civic participation. We want more participation. And social media engagement promotes outrage and echo chambers, and we want to fight that. Students need an alternative, and who better than teachers to help them find one? So those are the reasons I wanted to do Braver Angels with students, to do things in my classroom that were supported by using the philosophy and the ideas of Braver Angels. Because by early 2017, when I learned about Braver Angels, I found it very difficult to enjoy teaching my government classes, or my history class for that matter, but especially my government class. When I first started teaching government, I found that it could be really interesting for the students when you realize that every single topic in the textbook or that's in the curriculum, in the state standards that we're supposed to cover is going to be in the news, if not last week, this week, maybe next week. Never takes longer than that. There's stuff, it's important, the stuff you're supposed to learn, even though for a lot of students, the thought of government, especially, I taught seniors, the last semester of their senior year was just one more little hoop they had to get through to graduate, and they didn't think it was going to be that interesting. But helping them tie it to current events was interesting. Only by 2017, it was so hard for me to do it. It was hard for me to do it honestly and respectfully. And I could say all the right words, but it wasn't very sincere, and my students could tell. I know they could tell. I was having a really hard time making it. So Braver Angels really rejuvenated me. It taught me to look at the other side as not as enemies of me or of my nation, but just fellow citizens trying to figure out what's the best way forward and what we could do. So we had different experiences that led us to our positions, and I began to understand more. So I wanted to help my students, and I want to help other teachers find this place. Actually, right away, I was working with other teachers through the Braver Angels Network. One such teacher taught social studies at a middle school in San Francisco, and he noticed that he knew, because of where he lived and where his school was located, that most of his students came from very liberal families. And he was already hearing some of them parrot some of the really disdainful things about conservatives that they heard at home. And he wanted them to get to know some students from other parts of the country. So he and I worked together. I helped him connect with a teacher in Nebraska who also taught middle school, felt the same way. Students in Nebraska were much more conservative. And I'm not sure of all the activities they did. This was before the pandemic, but they did some, maybe Google Classroom. I don't even know if people were using Zoom. I had never heard of it. I'm sure it was around. But Google Classroom or something. They did some correspondence. They did some assignments. They talked to each other. But the culminating activity was an evening meeting that was, again, Zoom or Google Classroom or whatever, an evening meeting with parents and students from both Nebraska and San Francisco talking to each other and sharing ideas. And I think mostly the parents, well, I wasn't there, but I believe the parents on both sides were listening to what the students did. They may have also had a chance to answer some questions. But I just thought it was great. I thought that was so smart of that teacher to figure out, you know what, we need to do something that's involving the parents. I need to be transparent. I need to make sure the parents know what we're doing, and I'm not trying to convert anybody, and I'm, both sides. That it's just, this is what we're doing, and this will be a good experience. And so whole families were huddled around screens, discussing political ideas in early 2017 from Nebraska and San Francisco. I don't know where in Nebraska, I'm sorry about that. Okay. So then Erika contacted me about doing a red blue workshop at her school.
Okay, so I work at Waterford School in Sandy, and a red blue workshop brings together equal numbers. We had maybe 5 or 6 kids who identified as liberal and 5 or 6 kids who identified as conservative. We also had one faculty member on each side, and we take them through a series of protocols it took 3 hours. This was an opt-in thing. You got excused from class to come and do this. And we're going to show you a video. We were able to have one of our workshops, a videographer there, so we have a little video depiction of it. And then we'll tell you more about the red blue workshops, and we're going to do a little part of it.
Well, first you have to share that screen. Yeah. I think you just click on the screen. You don't have to hit the arrow. Oh, I think that'll work. Like this, yeah.
And this was during the pandemic, you'll see. And we have no sound.
Oh, sorry. That's what I'm here for, sound. Okay, I thought I turned it up. Something wrong. Oh, gosh. So sorry. Sorry about that. I had it turned up in one place. It's turned up there. No, it's not. Not that big. We should have sound. Where did the sound go? It was there this morning.
Exit out of your slideshow so you can see your.
The slideshow, that terrifies me.
You have to see the bar at the bottom.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
But now, it's just over there. I'm still, oh, see, we saw this. See, it's all the way up.
No, not that.
Not that.
Not that. The volume on the computer itself.
Oh.
There you go. Now I can see it.
It's on mute, all right.
Okay.
Yeah, there it is.
Yes.
At the time.
Thank you, everybody.
There's gotta have the young people come and help you with the technology.
Right now,
This isn't the same as that.
Take the mic, make the mouse hit that.
Really, we know what we're doing, we've done it before.
They
I don't know what they're doing.
This screen and this screen are not the same.
Right, which is why we have to get it in the mouse.
but you can control it and fix it.
Oh, click on that.
Okay.
Okay, we'll have to have the beginning again, sorry. Which is fine, it's supposed to be silent for the first school day. Okay.
You have to read.
You have to read for a minute.
Thank you.
Fingers
Might be
crossed.
too loud.
That's why I was standing there, because it was gonna be too loud. So the goals of today's experience is that we will have more understanding of the experiences, feelings, and beliefs of those who differ with us. That we will discover, possibly, maybe, some areas of commonality in addition to the differences that we already know about. And that we're going to learn something that might be helpful to someone in our community.
I think it's really enlightening to be able to talk to people from both sides of the political divide without any fear that you're going to be judged.
It was honestly an amazing experience. Learned how to effectively communicate, talk about difficult issues, also just how to have hard conversations and to really listen to people's opinions.
We're here to understand others and explain our views. We're not here to convince anyone to change their mind.
Dr. Smith will moderate, facilitate the reds, and I'll facilitate the blues.
I feel like we're all pushing towards the same place and trying to do this better world together, and just the approach is different.
I did not expect meeting the people who I really disagree with to go this smoothly.
The goal of this exercise is to learn about how the other group sees themselves beyond stereotypes, and to see if there's any common ground.
I hope we can get to a place where all political conversations are like what I experienced today.
Bravo.
Thank you. Okay, now, I don't know, how do we get back? Now we gotta get back to a screen over here. The screen that we know and love. This is the part that's the tricky slideshow. Yeah, I don't see. Up there. No, but it still won't be on our screen. We can
Just click on the little arrow.
Oh, no, yeah, that wasn't good.
There you go.
Presenter view?
No, we almost.
Yeah, right, okay.
That's right.
Okay. There we are. All right, okay.
We're gonna do it this way, we have to.
Yeah.
You know what, we're gonna do it this way.
Yeah.
I don't wanna waste any more of your time. Because we have nothing on our screen now.
Yeah.
So,
Oh.
yeah, it's a two thing. It's because we didn't want to give up our presenter notes.
Right.
So now we just will. Okay, so we are going to do a little bit of that red-blue workshop with you. They were doing a thing called the stereotype exercise. Is that what we call it?
Yep.
Okay.
Here, why don't you,
Over here then.
okay, great.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to people or look for stereotypes that you're going to write for me.
I'm gonna write for you.
Yeah, sorry. I'm going to ask for you to tell me stereotypes that if you're red, you think, if you tend to lean more conservative, you think people have of you and your side. What are some stereotypes? And you know what, I'm not gonna ask you to sign on dotted line that that is really your position, but just the stereotypes. So we're looking for stereotypes people have of the red or more conservative side. What are some stereotypes people have?
And in the context of this workshop, the people who identify as red would be in one room, and the people identified, so you would be talking with people on your side to create this list.
Right, so that's not happening today, which makes it could make it a little bit uncomfortable. So just tell us some stereotypes you think people have of the red side, wherever you are, over there. Yeah.
Love Trump.
Love Trump, okay. Yes. Yes.
Racist.
Racist. Very good. Love Trump, racist,
Narrow-minded.
narrow-minded. Okay. That's enough. Okay. Well, I say that both for time, but in a regular Red Blue workshop, we often ask for about 10. And then
they whittle it down to 5.
Yeah, and whittle it down. But, okay, so after we ask for the stereotypes, we ask, after we have a list, what is the inaccuracy? Why is that not true about your side? So, let's start with Trump lovers. Why is it not true about the red side that they're Trump lovers?
Those tend to be extremists, and not every single Republican feels that way.
Okay, so they're extremist. And actually, so she's right, not every single Republican or every
I'm saying
Republican.
not every single Republican supports Trump.
Right.
Not every Republican.
Yeah, not every Republican supports Trump. Okay, what about racist? Where's the inaccuracy there?
The truth doesn't bear that out. Like historically and in the present, there are lots of conservatives who are themselves of different races. The party itself is multi-ethnic, multiracial, and it's a
Okay, so historically and present day, many conservative leading people are either of multiple races themselves, or just don't feel racist.
I'll say historically and in the present day, there have been historically and there are currently people of color who are conservative.
It's diverse.
It's diverse.
Diverse,
Very good. Thank you. Okay. And while she writes that, what about the last one? Narrow-minded. Narrow-minded. Why is that inaccurate to describe the red side?
I think it's similar to the previous, that there's a wide variety of people who are members of the Republican Party.
Okay. So.
And who research the issues and actually are critical thinkers about issues, not just set in one, not intractable in one way of thinking about it.
Okay. And did you have more you wanted to add up there?
Oh my gosh, I just had a brain fart. What was the?
I was so interested in what everybody else had to say.
What was it? Narrow-minded?
Yes.
Oh, no, that wasn't it. What was it? Is it narrow-minded?
That's the one we're on now.
That's right, we're narrow-minded.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I really had a very successful brain.
Okay. So, first speaker. Okay, well, I can go to you and I'll come back to you if we need more clarification, but yeah. Yes, you,
Okay.
in the purple
I
vest.
think the fact that there's such a variety of issues on either side of it, let's say on this, some may see and take to the House this issue and the other. Do you know what I mean? Because if the Republican Party isn't one issue, Democratic Party isn't one issue, there's multiple.
Okay, so multiple issues and there's a lot of opinions.
Yeah.
And also there's, philosophical diversity.
Yeah.
Yeah. You said a couple really wise words. Okay, you remembered.
National Republican leaders have the attitude, it's my way or the highway. There's one way and it's my way.
So you're saying they are narrow-minded. That sounds narrow-minded. So hang on to that thought for my next question.
Stereotype on that, right?
Oh, that would be.
No, we're just looking for the inaccuracies. Why is this an inaccurate stereotype?
Oh, I'm glad you don't think that's inaccurate.
Okay, so what did you say?
I said
You
that
said some smart words.
that there are plenty of Republicans that try to be critical thinkers
critical
about
thinkers,
issues
yes.
and research
Yeah.
different perspectives regarding.
Yeah, they do research and critical thinking too, and yeah, not the only ones who can read. Okay. Okay, so after we talk about the stereotypes, talk about what is really not accurate, however, we do know that stereotypes come from somewhere. So where's the kernel of truth? Usually if we're honest, we can say, yeah, that's not really true about everybody, but there's this There's this kernel of truth that I can see where it came from. So what's the kernel of truth in the Trump lovers? Yes?
January 6th.
Okay.
Was the presidential.
Yeah, he got elected president.
He was elected. Yes, he was elected. He did have voters, and January 6th. That's probably enough for the kernel of truth there. How about the kernel of truth on racism? Or Judy, did you want to jump back?
Well, just another kernel of truth for that first one. Wasn't there some polling data recently released that 70% of Republicans don't accept the election outcome from
Okay. Okay, so even though that's not everybody, it's a sizable number, whatever the percentage is, okay? All right, racist, what's the kernel of truth there? Yeah?
Stances on, perceived stances on immigration.
Okay. Stances and perceived stances on immigration.
Harsh
Okay.
perceived harsh policies on immigration.
Okay, perceived harsh policies on immigration, yes.
Republican leaders have been endorsed by KKK leaders.
Okay,
Like,
yeah, that's a good kernel of truth, a sad one, but a good one. Okay, does anyone else want to add another one? Charlottesville, was that, okay. All right. Got all these down?
Yep.
Okay, I thought we were done. No, narrow-minded. Okay, where's the kernel of truth on narrow-minded? Yes?
I guess you could say that like conservatives who have like traditional beliefs, like maybe like narrow-minded in terms of like families, like a nuclear family would be maybe considered unprogressive.
Okay. Okay, so traditional beliefs, yeah, people that are really entrenched with tradition, yes?
National Republican politicians who continue to deny climate change publicly.
Okay, there are some who can deny climate change, and yes, one more, last one.
I think a core principle of conservatism is that you hold to what has been tried and proved in the past.
Okay,
So you don't
so
want,
it kind of
you're
narrows,
resistant to change.
looking beyond,
You
okay.
want to do what's already been done.
All right, while she finishes writing, whatever she gets up there, you guys have given some more good words than students often do. You can see how this is a little bit uncomfortable, not knowing who you're sitting by, and not knowing how people in the room are feeling what you're saying. And some of your, I don't know, I feel a little bit uncomfortable. So when you do this in a regular workshop, you're alone. You're doing your own thing.
You have a facilitator there.
Yeah, you have a facilitator, in the case of the one you saw on the screen, Erika or I, being as neutral as we can possibly be, and just, giving ideas, but it's talking about what people think about us, whoever us is at the moment in that room, and they're a little freer, and they're freer to say, okay, all right, I get like the kernel of truth, like, yeah, I don't think this is true for many, but there's this thing that happened in the past or whatever, and so I see why, where it comes from. Okay, before we say any more, we're going to move to the red side. The blue side.
Okay, so when you do this work, you use a lot of red and blue markers. Okay. All right, so liberals, stereotypes about liberals. And
They like to spend other people's money.
okay.
Socialist.
Should we say socialist or fiscally?
Government will solve all problems.
Okay.
They govern, yeah.
I don't know if these are all the same one or.
Narrow-minded. For real.
Okay, we got it. Let's put
Narrow-minded down there. All right.
Hippies and tree huggers. Like right there.
I'm just gonna go with tree huggers.
Okay, that's plenty.
That's plenty.
We know there are more.
I'm gonna separate those two, so we've got 4.
Okay, we'll do 4. Awesome. Okay, why is it inaccurate to promote the stereotype that they spend other people's money? Yes?
Because liberals pay taxes as well, right? So it's our taxes money.
Liberals pay taxes as well. They're spending their own money. Socialism. Why is that? Why to call liberals socialists is inaccurate? Yes.
Like big government programs.
Why is it inaccurate?
Why is calling them socialists inaccurate?
Because it's not uniform. There's
Yeah,
there's no uniformity.
Complex and diverse.
Okay.
Yeah,
Diversity of thought.
Yeah.
Republicans like Social Security too.
I do like that.
Okay, the narrow-mindedness. Why is that inaccurate? Yes.
It's the same as the other side, but
Right.
on both parties, they have rhinos and dinos. Sorry, that's on the kernel of truth, where they're self-selecting.
Okay, so.
Why is it inaccurate?
Why is the narrow-minded liberal as a stereotype inaccurate?
There's a lot of diversity of thought in that.
Okay.
Complex, deep thinkers.
Yep. There are deep thinkers. There are superficial folks on every side, but there are certainly deep thinkers. And so let's just go with the environment on this for tree huggers. So why is the tree hugging stereotype for liberals inaccurate?
We all enjoy national parks.
We all experience nature and we all want to try to.
Well, but okay.
Katie,
They
fly their
drive
jets to
cars that have emissions.
Okay, in the way back.
Just this week, the Democrat Senate candidate supported fracking.
Okay, so some Democrats. How can we put that?
Diversity.
Diversity, yeah, diversity does cover
Covers everything.
Yeah. Okay, great.
Specific one.
So then, after each group in their separate area.
Forget to do the kernel.
Oh, we got to do kernel of truth. Kernel of truth for spend other people's money.
Social programs cost money.
Social programs cost money. And what did you say about student debt? Yeah, here, just recently, yeah. What's the kernel of truth about socialism?
Believe in a social safety net.
FDR.
I think it's a big idea that we need to support local people, like, we all.
Okay, there you're giving why an inaccuracy, but what's the kernel of truth about this stereotype about socialism? Yeah.
Socialists are on the liberal scale, like they're part of it, so.
There are socialists who are Democrats. Yeah.
Bernie Sanders.
Right.
Capitalism has its own weaknesses too.
Yeah, but you're not allowed to talk about the other side while you're working on your stereotype.
You're just working,
Just
we're
to
just
do
talking
that.
about blues.
Well, that's why it's a kernel of truth. Like there's socialism because capitalists have weaknesses, and socialists are trying to address those with socialism.
Okay,
That's
I'm
an
not
argument
saying you're
for
incorrect.
socialism.
You're not incorrect. I'm just telling you that in a workshop, we just wouldn't let you talk about the other side. We're here talking about ourselves, whatever we are. If we're in a red group or a blue group, just letting you know that's how the rule goes. Like we're not talking about those people. We're talking about us. So.
Okay, kernel of truth for narrow-minded.
Shouting down conservative speakers on college campuses.
Bingo.
Okay.
Free speech. Yeah.
Did he say shouting down what?
Shouting down speakers on college campuses. Liberal students shouting down. Yes.
Well, just because the newly elected Latina Republican representative in Texas is not allowed to join the Latina caucus in the House of Representatives, because she was Republican. Just popped up in the story I read.
Okay, so how can you make that more compact?
Keep outsiders.
Gatekeeping. Gatekeeping. Great. Okay. Kernel of truth for tree huggers.
The Green New Deal.
Okay.
Concerned about the environment.
And what the tree hugger stereotype is pejorative, right? Is like somebody's going too far.
So,
Yeah.
So what's the kernel of truth about Democrats going too far in the environment? Eco-terrorism. Okay, that's why.
Shutting down production.
Yes?
How long, so obviously we're doing it super quickly right here, but how long would you spend in a real workshop allowing kids to talk about these ideas?
An hour.
Well, not all in the separate rooms. That's the whole thing, right?
No,
We
the
take
whole
about
thing is
30
3 hours.
No, but this part. We talk about this for like about 30 minutes, then we come back and join the group.
I thought it was, well, my groups would always go over time.
Okay, I think
So-
maybe 40 minutes. Maybe 40 minutes.
So this is, they are in separate rooms.
Yes.
So this is fundamentally different.
Yes,
than that activity.
yes, so again, this is fundamentally different because you'd be doing this, the Blues would be doing this by themselves. This is a way to learn about how the other side sees themselves, okay? Yes?
I'm just curious about your experience, I mean, in terms of like grade levels for one, but I'm also in terms of, a lot of kids, they're not sure where to stand.
Right.
So how does that work if you're like, okay, go here or here, and like,
Or if they're more moderate, like what do you do for people who fall like fairly in the middle?
So sadly, there's a little bit of a problem with Braver Angels with purple people, which I think I'm pretty purple. So I think that is an issue because you kind of have to identify for the day of the workshop as one or the other. So my sister-in-law, I think is pretty purple, decided to come, and
this was not a school one.
Not a school one, this was the adults, and she went with the Blues. Erika, tell me if I'm wrong, but you only invited seniors and then maybe a couple pretty mature
Juniors
juniors.
and seniors, and it
to
was
her.
and we talked about it in assembly, explained what happened, and then kids signed up to do it.
So it wasn't kids, random kids in the hallway, tell us if you're red or blue. They chose to be part of this extracurricular activity. So I don't know that this, because you're right, and I don't want to start putting kids in labels and putting them in boxes in my classroom. So this was an extra voluntary association.
So the next step is, go ahead.
So, for clarification, did you say earlier that when the kids signed up, they were actually balanced between red and blue, naturally?
Well, I had to do recruiting for Reds at my school.
So in Braver Angels in general, do you find that you have a balance of people coming to it, or do you have to recruit a lot more Reds in general?
Casey, do you want to speak to that?
Unfortunately, right now in Brave Angels, there are more Blues than Reds, and so we do need to be reaching out to them and asking them to come in. We have something called the Red Caucus, where we're investigating, why that may be, and there's a lot of reasons, speculation of what that they throw around, but we do. Now we know. So. I just wanted to mention too, since I have commandeered the microphone for a moment, if any of you would like to participate in a Red Blue workshop, I organize these for Braver Angels nationally, and we're going to be having one the first 2 Saturdays in January. If you want to go to Braver Angels website, it's braverangels.org, and you can sign up to participate in one of these yourself before you do it with your class, just so you can see what their experience would be like in a less condensed setting. We do it online for our national events, but if anybody was interested in putting one on for adults locally, we would love to help you organize one live.
So quick follow-up.
Yeah.
So when you put on a workshop, whether it's for kids or for adults, do you take a Noah's Ark approach, which would mean that you don't have the workshop unless you have boundaries?
Yes. Yes.
They can be off. We can be off by 1, like 10 on one side and 11 on the other,
right,
or something.
Yeah.
But no, we very much close to a Noah's Ark approach. I like that wording.
Yeah. And so after each group has come up with this, then everybody gets together, and the Reds present to the Blues, and the other side just listens. And so the Reds say, here are the stereotypes we came up with. Here's why we think they're inaccurate, and here's the kernel of truth. And then you go to the Blues and they present to the Reds, with the Reds listening.
And the facilitators don't do the presenting. You choose from your group, somebody volunteers to be the spokesperson and make sure they know the key points. Although, once they're speaking, other people in their group always chime in and say, don't forget this, tell them this too, and stuff. So you present yourself, you present the stereotypes about you, and the inaccuracies and kernels of truth about your side to the other side.
Yeah, okay. How long do we have? We're supposed to be done at 4:50. Okay.
Oh, I think now that we extend a little bit, 4:30 is okay.
4:30.
Can we go till 4:30? Okay, awesome. All right.
You've lost almost all your notes.
I know,
So sorry.
whatever. Oh, okay, this was another fun thing we did.
Yes, this is
So I have a friend in Boston who teaches at a school in Cambridge, Mass. And he heard about Braver Angels and he reached out to Glori and I and said, I want to do some kind of experience for my students that uses the Braver Angels philosophy. And so he did it online. This was during the pandemic, and it's great to go beyond the pandemic, where Glori connected him with a teacher in Louisiana, and he created a 6-class exchange for seniors over, well, I guess it was like six weeks, called Beyond Our Echo Chambers. And so it was all over Zoom, and this was fantastic in that you have this was a private school in Cambridge, Mass, lovingly referred to as the People's Republic of Cambridge, and I can say that because I grew up there. And all the kids in his class identified as liberal, okay? Talking with the Young Republican Club from Sam Houston High School in Moss Bluff, Louisiana. And it was just a wonderful experience, and so we did a little online version of the Red Blue Workshop. And Glori, you talk about the some of the things we noticed. Yeah.
So, like she said, they did 6 events, and they didn't involve us in all of them. In fact, just 2. One of their you have to see my notes there in case I missed something. One of their first meetings, they were supposed to bring an artifact, something they could show on the screen that represented them, and that that would would help other people see them. And after that was done, one of the red identifying kids in Moss Bluff, Louisiana, said they were shocked that one of the kids in Massachusetts, in Cambridge, brought a Bible to represent themselves. They didn't think any of those kids would be religious. And that was, we just all thought, that's so great. I mean, that they learned that new thing. And then after one of our sections, the red blue sections, we do a thing called a fishbowl, where the people in the middle talk about why their policies and their philosophies and ideas are good for the country, and the other side sits on the outside and listens. And then you flip, other people are inside, do the same thing. Well, after the fishbowl event, and then of course you debrief and say, what did you learn and what did you think? And that's where these great comments come from. So one of the kids in Massachusetts said that they never understood why people wouldn't be completely in support of climate change initiatives until listening to those kids in Louisiana, where they realized almost every single one of their parents worked in the oil industry, and how hard that would be if to some of the initiatives and things that he had once thought were so sensible, how much it was a different story if you realized the economy of your family and maybe your entire town is going to go seriously down if some of these laws were passed that he thought were normal. And it was just really cool, eye-opening messages from them. Okay.
Okay. We're gonna
try. We'll see.
Little thing. So
We see if this will work.
Here's another workshop. Yeah, we'll see. We really appreciate your flexibility and willingness to try all these things with us. So this is called Skills for Crossing the Divide, a role-playing exercise.
By the way, this isn't part of the Red Blue workshops, and we have never done this with students. So we're kind of doing it with you because you can do it with adults.
Yeah.
And kind of curious if you think it would work with students.
Okay, so in your folder, you've got this information. You can open this up. So the goals of this exercise are to learn about a perspective different from your own, share your own perspective, and discover common ground if it's there. Core principles are reciprocity, dignity, and discovery. And Glori, go ahead.
And you should expect at a red-blue activity of any sort to abandon the idea that you can persuade someone to change your mind. In fact, one of the ground rules, and I think all the workshops, is you're not here to change anyone's mind. You're just here to learn something new about another perspective, and maybe they'll learn from you. That facts will be agreed on and logic followed consistently? No, not really. Not usually when emotions and firmly held beliefs are being discussed. And that your conversation partner will match your openness. So that's specifically on this thing. We're working on skills for having nice, useful conversations with people that on the others have a different political perspective than you. And just because you're working on doing that doesn't mean the person you're talking to read the same memo and decided to respond nicely.
Okay, so find a partner. We would invite you to find a partner right now. Somebody close by. Okay? And one person is, and this is different from the red-blue, from the stereotypes.
Okay, you don't have to start talking yet.
Okay. All right, class, quiet down. I have some more instructions. Thank you. So this is different from the stereotypes exercise in that we are literally role-playing. And one person is going to be red and one person is going to be blue. So you don't have to decide yet who's going to be red and blue, because Glori and I are going to demonstrate for you. But plan on that. All right, you're going to learn 2 skills. The first one is tone setting skills. This is how you just start a conversation. Just set the tone. Show that you want to understand. Ask permission to pose a question. Acknowledge your political stance. And it helps if you can offer something critical of your side and credit something positive with the other side. So that's just getting the conversation started. And there are some examples in your packet on things you might say. Okay? And then after you've got the conversation started, you're going to ask your question to the other person, and you're going to then use listening skills. So they will say something, and then you paraphrase back what you heard. You ask questions of curiosity, not gotcha questions, and you listen for their underlying values. Okay, are we going to demonstrate now?
Yeah, I think we're going to another screen. I don't think it matters.
Okay, so here we go. So first, Glori is going to, go ahead.
I'm going to be the blue-leaning listener, and Erika's going to be the red supporter, the red actor. She's acting, as you know, because she already identified herself.
Correct. Okay.
Okay, so hi Erika, how you doing?
Good, how are you, Glori?
I'm fine.
We want the camera to.
Oh,
No, come here.
Okay. Do it
Yeah.
early though.
Yeah, there we go.
So Erika, do you mind if I ask you a couple questions?
About what?
About your yard sign.
Oh, okay.
So I saw you have a yard sign for Lee,
Yeah.
for re-election, and it really surprised me. Can you tell me why are you supporting him?
I'll be happy to if you promise you're not going to put this into social media or
Oh,
something.
no, this is just a nice conversation between me. I'm really
Great.
curious
Okay.
about why you would support. I haven't voted yet and I haven't really fully decided.
Okay.
So I just am really
All right.
curious.
Sure. Well, I feel like Senator Lee has been super consistent about the Constitution. And I feel the Constitution is incredibly important. It's actually even a part of my faith. I believe that the Constitution is divinely inspired. It's not perfect, but it's the best thing we have. And so I feel a great comfort that Senator Lee cares about that, and every single time he's going to protect the Constitution. That's why I'm going to support him.
Okay, so I really like this. You're saying you really love the Constitution. He does too. I do too. So that's pretty cool. I've really been leaning toward McMullen. So is there anything else about Lee that you were?
Well, I think this speaks to my experience in that, he's, because of his love for the Constitution, he's very concerned about federal overreach and too much federal control federal programs, federal spending. And in my family, this shows up in that my husband comes from Canada, and so I have in-laws in Canada, and my sister-in-law has a condition similar to mine where she needs a new joint replacement. I was able to get mine here without a lot of waiting from a good doctor. She is with nationalized healthcare in Canada. She's been told by her doctor that she maybe should wait because she only gets 2 joint replacements in her lifetime under their national health. And my sister's in pain all the time. And so I see that as an example of federal overreach that actually doesn't help people. It's actually kind of hurting people.
Okay, well, I can see that that would be a real concern. And I do really value, I mean, I like it when the government does some things, but I do recognize that they don't always do things well. They don't always do it better than the private sector. So that's really helpful. Okay, well, you know what, thank you so much for talking to me. I still haven't decided for sure. You haven't convinced me that I should vote for Lee, but you've given me some good things to think about, and I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet, thanks. So I also want to get super meta about this in that as we were preparing for the demonstration, I felt like I had to get educated and I wanted to hear from a Lee voter so I could accurately represent Lee. So I called up Casey and we had a wonderful telephone conversation, and so all those things you heard now, have I accurately represented you, Casey? Yeah? Okay, good. all those things you heard come from Casey's life. And furthermore, Casey then used her curiosity and goodwill, and she asked me questions about why I'm supporting McMullen, and we had a really good conversation. And then we ended on the topic of ranked choice voting, which we both were very interested in. And that conversation ended up with, oh, we should talk to the Braver Angels people about this, because that could be a Braver Angels political initiative that both sides can get around. So I'm just really grateful for all these experiences, because as I learn and as I teach other people, I'm constantly learning myself. So that was awesome. All right, now your turn. So let's see. Okay,
your turn.
Blue, decide who's blue and who's red. Are you seeing this sort of scripts on the paper? Okay, so the blue is the listener. That's the person that's starting the conversation. The red is the actor. So, and what topic are we doing?
I think we're going to do gun control.
Okay, gun control. We've got talking points for you on gun control then. So let's give you a minute or two.
Yeah, I will set the alarm on my phone.
Okay.
You've got 2 minutes. Your turn. but you didn't hear it. How are you doing? Can you wind up your conversation in the next 15 seconds? Okay, are we good? Children? Children? Anyone? Anyone? One, two, three, eyes on me. Okay, so if we had time, we would switch, but we're not. You get the idea. You see that there are talking points for immigration also. There's a little script, so you don't have to think so hard. What do you think? A little reflection on this and also anything from today. Yes. You know what? So I said before you started that we've never done this with students, and Erika and I were talking while you were doing it, thinking with the talking points, this would be a great way for kids who don't know where they stand to just talk about having civil conversations. And you can pick some topics that they have some little more knowledge of or interest in, but honestly, in my high school classes, gun control and immigration are right up there at the top of important political ideas that they do care about. Just like we did super easy debates, you could start with some maybe super easy, I don't know, maybe not super easy, but school-centered. Like, should school start at 10 instead of 7:30? Or some. But that's a real thing that people research and talk about, and how much secondary kids would do better with a late start. So you could do some topics like that along with some heavier political topics. Yes?
I think something that was hard here, and maybe would be hard in the classroom, is it's kind of hard to fabricate like a genuine civil conversation like that, where it's like, hi, you're a stranger, tell me your innermost thoughts about versus like a neighbor, right? That you're like, oh, so tell me, I noticed this, tell me about this. So I almost wonder if it would be helpful if you were doing it in a classroom setting to say like, start with this question and almost have it be like an open room situation where it's like, you might end up talking to someone that has the same view as you. You might end up talking to someone who has a different view than you, just to kind of make it a little more, I guess, genuine and less just like, hi, so.
What do you think about gun control?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
What would you have to do to prepare the students to participate in this? I mean, for instance, reflective listening. How much time would you spend on teaching students on how to do that?
I think it depends on what you've already done in your classroom. I start out with the very first day talking about and having a sign on the wall that talked about respectful listening, and we're going to learn in this class how to have hard conversations in a nice, in a civil manner. Civic conversations is what I call them. So I start from day one, so that if I introduce this, say now, this week, we would have done some other things. But yeah, I think you do need some prep time, but I think it's a lot of the tone you set in the classroom yourself as a teacher. Any other ideas on that? Yes?
Not an idea, this is a question, and whether this comes up in the Braver Angels work you guys do with students. What do you do when people bring up misinformation or disinformation as their reasoning for why they have a viewpoint that they do?
I think, particularly that's a really good question. And I think, I'm pretty sure I've heard Kyle answer this in another workshop, so think for just a second, Kyle. But I would want you could ask for sources. You can always ask for sources. When I do the debates, students have to turn in sources for their positions on both sides. So, Kyle?
Yeah, I think the sourcing is really important. I'm just going to share just a resource I use with my kids. It's called All Sides Media. I'm sure you're familiar with all of that. All Sides Media, it's a great way to do it, but also you can just set the norm that you're going to need to cite your sources, and if that's one of your norms, then that's I think, the easiest way to do it. But if you haven't set that norm yet, it's part of the conversation.
Yeah, that's really good. Setting that as a norm, just like the norm at the beginning that we're going to have civil civic conversations. Yes.
And yet the complication is sources themselves aren't. And so teaching kids about sourcing and having a balanced diet, which is something that when we become adults, we have a horrible diet of the information that comes to us. Most of us. I'll speak for myself. I have a horrible diet. And I think that we get into those echo chambers as adults and our gated communities and our self-selected everything. And I always think about our classrooms are kind of this virtual Thanksgiving dinner where everybody's invited, even the people that you don't know whether you want to ever see them again. But they're there, and we have an opportunity, this little window of time, to have those kinds of civil conversations. They can engage in civil dialogue. I think that Mary Ellen Daniels, who does a lot of work in Illinois, talks a lot about creating that culture first in your classroom. You can't go. I mean, think about how even us having a little role play can get all amped up. So these kids have all this emotion, and so you've got to create a culture of respect and honesty, and before you can even begin to get to this work.
I'm really sorry, I see other hands, but it's 4:30 and Arthur Brooks is on his way. And I need to stop, but I'm so glad, so we let the state social studies guru have the last word, but I'm so glad he mentioned Thanksgiving, because honestly, some of these skills are so helpful around the Thanksgiving table with your crazy Uncle Joe, but I mean that sincerely, looking at them. So I'm not even going to take time to read Arthur Brooks' quote there, but it goes with everything we've been saying for our presentation, but honestly all day. Sorry for using the mic. So Robert, I'm giving Robert like 10 seconds. Good.